Now, for a super exciting, engaging portion of our show, we call it the Innovation for Investors Pitch Session. Think about The Voice or any of these Shark Tank-like shows. That's what you're gonna see next. And as they make their way to the stage, I would like to introduce each of our three highly respected money managers who agreed to serve as judges for today's event. First, you'll see, he lives and breathes my alma mater, Purdue University. Welcome John Hanack to the stage, Managing Director of Purdue Ventures. It's the seed capital entity within Purdue's Foundry, which is a pre-incubation accelerator focused on commercializing university-developed technologies through startup companies. Next to John Hanack, we have Oscar Morales. He is with Vision Tech Partners, the managing director and founder. They provide management consulting services for early stage technology companies. He's also the co-manager of Vision Tech Angels, providing funding for innovation. Let's give Oscar Morales a round of applause. And beside him, Mr. Danny Chan. He's a member of IndyMD Angels. They are a venture capital fund made up of a group of neurologists, of which Danny's a member of IndyMD Angels, and they also provide funding for innovation. Danny is the managing director of Iconic Private Equity Partners based in Hong Kong. He's appeared on the cover of many money magazines, and he's currently investing in film, recently spending some time with the celebrities out in Los Angeles. Please join me in welcoming all of these money managers to the stage. Thank you so much for being here. So here's the way this session is going to work. Each one of the stars of our show, which are our pitchers, who I'll introduce in just a minute, while I'm trying to figure out where the best place for me to stand is, we'll have 2 minutes to pitch their technology-enabled healthcare innovation to our judges. You'll see their slides on one of the screens, and you'll see a 2-minute timer on the other. And then when they're done pitching and the timer goes off, each one of our judges can ask them one question, or they can elect to pass. And then we'll move on to our next pitcher. So I'd encourage the audience to get involved. You can clap, you can yell, you can do anything that's appropriate from your seat. So with that, let me introduce to you the first star of our show. His name is Scott Massey. He's with HydroGrow, delivers sustainable food in seed form by the way of Keurig-like K-Cups. Think sort of upstream from green bean delivery. Now, let's hear from Scott.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott Massey. I'm the founder and CEO of HydroGrow LLC, and for the past year, I've worked as an engineer at the Purdue University Horticulture College using hydroponics to develop life support systems for future space colonies so that astronauts could grow their own food in space. This has been a remarkable experience, and I've applied space-age technology to my startup here on Earth. The problem at hand is that the United States is the most efficient agricultural country in the world, but it's still incredibly wasteful. It consumes 50% of our land, 80% of our water, and what do we get out of it? Produce that's oftentimes been rotting for a week on average by the time we buy it, so we end up throwing 40% of it away by the time we get it. If you've ever been in California, you should recognize that flyer because it was once illegal for a restaurant in California to serve you a glass of water unless you'd ask for it. That's how bad their drought had gotten, and they produce 2/3 of our nation's produce. Luckily, my patent-pending aeroponic appliance, the GrowPod, solves all of these issues by growing produce 2 to 3 times faster than conventional farming methods. This equates to the user having 2 full heads of leafy greens in my system every single day for the rest of their life, using 95% less water and no pesticides. Through the use of advanced artificial intelligent control algorithms, the GrowPod is actually aware of what produce varieties are growing in it and will automatically adapt to each individual species' specific environmental preference. A seamless phone application would have a user to have a full supply of seed pods mailed directly to their door, eliminating their dependence on a grocery store for most varieties. These seed pods have a production distribution cost of 15 cents, $1 retail value, giving HydroGrow an almost 1,000% profit margin on its largest selling item. Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently failing to meet the global food demand, and until we invest in sustainable hydroponic future appliances, we have a very bleak future ahead of us. There's going to be 3 billion more people on the planet in the next 30 years, and so we at HydroGrow ask you all to join us in making our future a little bit brighter. Thank you.
That was a wonderful pitch. Let's turn it over to Judge Hannock. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I love the razor and the blades model that you're operating on, but I want to kind of focus on the razor itself. Who do you think and how will you sell your first 100 units?
So there is a very high capital cost of building hydroponic facilities in cities across the U.S. to build that infrastructure. We plan on actually franchising out our encrypted seed pods, which our system only recognizes, to the existing hydroponic facilities and allowing capitalism to really take place within the city, so then the best user will rise out of that area and quality control will manage itself, allowing us to have a virtual overnight growth period.
Thank you.
Scott, can you tell me a little bit more about kind of the financial plan looking forward? How big do you think you can make this thing in the next 3 to 5 years?
So, do the slides in. Okay, so the total obtainable market is the U.S. fruit and vegetable market with $80 billion of sales and working capital. Our serviceable market is U.S. organic industry with $43.3 billion in revenue in 2015. And our directly obtainable market is U.S. hydroponic industry, an $850 million market with revenue in 2015. That's going to become a multi-billion-dollar hydroponic appliance industry once combined with the $15.6 billion appliance industry, with its biggest drivers being drought in places like California, chemical contamination of farmland in places like Flint, Michigan, and Fukushima, and more people including produce in their diet.
Scott, who's your first best chance at a customer?
That's likely going to be organic consumers, upper income, discretionary individuals who spend more money on higher quality produce, but that's still 45% of the US population. HydroGrow is uniquely positioned, though, with its patent-pending design to cater towards the organic and non-organic demographic alike. The organic consumers will see value in the organic sustainability of growing their own produce, similar to people buying a Prius because they're environmental conscious. Non-organic consumers would see value in a cutting-edge technology, similar to people buying a Tesla. So we would check off all the demographic boxes.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause
Thank
to
you.
Scott Massey. That is a smart guy. Next, let me introduce Curtis Sluice. He is with Bright Lamp, a smartphone app that can actually detect concussions. Welcome, Curtis. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Curtis Sluice, CEO of Bright Lamp. At Bright Lamp, we focus on making the world a better place and making it medically mobile by utilizing software to go through certain diagnostic efforts that have become mundane or are inaccessible or unaffordable at this moment. We utilize advanced computer vision technologies and deep neural networks to make diagnostic determinations on you and pair that with the smartphone in your pocket. So at the moment, there's about 48 million individuals that are uninsured right now in healthcare, and then additionally, there's about $76 billion worth of outstanding medical debt. That's just outstanding. For us specifically, our first product is aimed at concussions, and right now we want to solve the 84% undiagnosed rate for concussions. The way our product works is we hold a phone up, where the individual holds a phone up to your eye, and in our computer vision method, we map the pupil, and we take in that data, dump that data into our deep neural network, and then we make high-level abstractions on whether or not you're concussed or have head trauma, and then also the severity of the head trauma. This is our worst-case scenario with dark brown irises. Originally, we were using edge detection. That doesn't work. We're currently the only individuals that can operate in the RGB color space and measure, do pupillometry, basically. So thank you. That's Bright Lamp. We are, again, trying to make the world medically mobile, and additionally, we have filed our patent recently, and everything is looking very hopeful for us. So I'll take any questions now.
Thank you.
So Curtis, this is a question directly related to what you just said about filing the patent, but can you spend just a minute talking about your intellectual property position and how Bright Lamp thinks that gives it a competitive edge?
Yeah, thank you. So right now, generally you can't patent software, but we utilize the phone as a medical device. We have extremely bright patent lawyers at IU Law. And the IP covers generally anything pupillometry related on a mobile phone. So our IP also covers detecting autism at infancy, and then blood alcohol content and other drug abuse issues. So in general, we have a very broad scope that our patent covers, and we focus on the moment concussions, but we will apply the technology in other fields later.
Judge Morales?
Yeah, I've got a question about the business side, you talked about the technology, how it works. What are your plans on commercializing this? I mean, is it going to be a company? Is it going to be a distribution opportunity or a royalty licensing opportunity, or what's
So
the
it'll be a
plan?
company. We actually go through a subscription model. One of the biggest buyers that we've seen for the application that will happen is high schools. Currently, there's a huge need to be able to determine head trauma on the field at a high school because they don't necessarily have athletic trainers who can afford it. So we will be a subscription-based system, and it's based off of a flat rate plus the amount of users added on and then the amount of tests that's done on that field. And that escalates pretty simply between like the high school, college athletics, and pro athletics as well.
Judge Chan?
In terms of the concussion that you talked about, so football, everybody knows that's a big deal with concussions. In terms of your software versus the athletic trainer's analysis, have you guys done studies, or is there a comparison on how effective your software is versus what the doctors are doing by the side?
Right, so what's really interesting is pupillometry has been really vetted in this space. So really what we're trying to do is make a phone as good as a current pupillometer that costs thousands of dollars. And for us, we took data from journals, about 80 sets, and dumped it into our neural network, and we got perfect separation between concussed individuals and not concussed individuals just from data that we see out in the space.
Fantastic pitch. Thank you very much, Curtis.
Thank you.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce our third pitcher, Arun Giridhar. He is with Pinpoint Pharma, which is a tech-enabled device that provides on-demand and just-in-time production of pharmaceutical products for patients and provider demand and dosage. Please join me in welcoming Arun. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. It's my pleasure to be here. I am the CEO and co-founder of Pinpoint Pharma, which officially makes me a pinhead. There we go. The medical context, some of you already know, especially in this audience, which is that when you have a patient comes in to a doctor, the doctor has to spend a fair bit of effort in prescribing the dosage amount and the dosage form to that patient. This is specifically a problem for patients who are not your usual patients. So if you have pediatrics, neonatals, or geriatric patients, people with compromised immune systems or metabolisms and so forth. Also, there is a problem in the pharma industry, which is that the supply chain isn't as efficient as it could be, and this is pretty well known across the entire supply chain from production to distribution. Our technology solution for this is an inkjet printer for medicine. I'm deliberately using an old picture there, which is not as slick as what our current model is. But what we have is an inkjet printer, how a commercial inkjet printer takes small quantities of liquid ink and deposits it on blank paper. We do the same thing with small quantities of liquid medicine and deposit it on a blank substrate. The substrate would be something that the patient is familiar with, like a tablet or a capsule or any other form that is needed to that specific patient. And what this enables is that you can make personalized medicine at the point of use. So we are moving the technology to produce drug products closer to the final patient. This is much more precise and rapid than the current methods that are used to make personalized medicine for individual patients. We have some numbers out there. We have a relatively fast production time. We have extremely precise consistency from dose to dose, not batch to batch, but even better dose to dose. And that's all I had.
Wow,
Thank you. I'm glad we got to use the timer.
That got our attention. I didn't know what that was.
It's not a fire alarm. That's the 2 minutes are up. Judge?
A question, Arun, regarding your customers. Given the fact that your technology kind of moves the delivery of medication closer to the point of use, is it going to be doctors' offices? Is it pharmacies? If you can just kind of address that.
We are starting with compounding pharmacies because that's the market segment that is most familiar with making patient-specific drug products. But there are other uses for this technology that will become online as the time goes on. For example, small quantity production for clinical trials or any other investigation of that sort.
Would it ever actually go to point of care?
it would go to the point of care in the pharmacies. The idea is that the patient would walk into a pharmacy with their prescription. The medicine would be printed for the patient on the spot and given to them. And that would be hyper-tailored to that person's metabolism and genetics.
So I'm trying to understand kind of your business model. Are you the manufacturer or are you the pharmaceutical company?
We are right now the technology provider, so we make the printer and we would be selling that to pharmacies and other people who are already in the business of making patient-specific doses and medicines. So instead of whatever technology they currently use to make certain drug products by hand or by low-tech, we would come in and replace that technology with something a lot better. That's our business model for now.
I was just going to ask, in terms of the business model, where's the revenue generated? Where's the recurring customers? Can you kind of go into that a little bit?
Yes. There is some money that comes from the printer base unit, so to speak, and there is a lot more money that would come from cartridges. Think of it like ink cartridges for your inkjet printer. So that would be filled with medicine that you could slot in and dispense. So we have some money coming in from the base unit and some coming in from cartridges, and that depends on which specific medicines are in demand at any given time. That's how we would make and sell the cartridges.
Thank you very much. Wonderful job. Thank you. Our fourth pitcher is Steve Mogensen. He's the CEO of SpeechVive, which is a smart device that helps patients battling Parkinson's disease speak more clearly and loudly. Please join me in welcoming Steve.
Hi, good morning. My name is Steve Mogensen, CEO of SpeechVive. I know you've heard a lot of statistics this morning. I'm going to give you one more, probably you have never heard, and hopefully you'll never forget. About 100% of the people here today, and actually 100% of the people alive, will get Parkinson's disease if you live long enough. So yes, that statement was designed to shock you a little bit, but it's because Parkinson's is a terrible disease. It affects over 10 million people worldwide. 89% of those people have a speech problem known as hyperkinetic dysarthria, which is the inability to speak loud enough to be heard. So imagining not being able to communicate with your spouse, your friends, your family, and that's what these people go through. And as Joyce from Rocksteady mentioned, quality of life things are the only thing that we can provide to people with Parkinson's, whether it's a drug, a device, or a therapy. And that's what SpeechVive is. It's an ear-worn device that people wear during the day that helps them to automatically speak louder and articulate more clearly. They wear it during the day, and in fact, in clinical trials, 90% of the people that use the device were able to speak louder, significantly louder, and communicate more effectively. We launched product sales in November of last year. We're focused on VA medical centers because of their willingness to adopt the technology, and they also cover the cost of the device for veterans. Our goal is to be in 30 VA medical centers by the end of October. We're already in 27. We expect to have sales over 400,000 by the end of this year, and probably later this fall we'll be raising our B round of funding. And if you're interested in learning more about SpeechVive, I look forward to meeting you this afternoon. Thank you.
So, Steve, can you talk about your growth path? I understand, 27 VA centers, and how many are there total? That'd be one.
154. It was on the slide, so.
So ultimately, I think you'd probably, want to get in them. But what's your next big and large growth area beyond VAs?
Sure. We received a Phase 2 SBIR. It's a 2-year award, about $1.3 million. We're wrapping up the first year, and what that allows us to do is to program devices remotely. So right now, each device has to be programmed for each individual patient by a speech pathologist. We're building a platform that will allow us to do that over the internet. So that's definitely going to be our next area of widespread growth. Thanks.
Steve, what current generation model are you at? I know you've gone through some iterations. Can you kind of talk about how the technology has evolved as you've learned more?
It's a long story. The shortest way to probably sum that up is when we went into manufacturing, we thought we were ready, and we weren't. And so we've basically spent the last 18 months retooling not only the hardware and the firmware, but also the software that programs the device. And we got to a point in November where we felt like it was more robust and ready for the market, so we relaunched in November.
Steve, would it make sense to partner with a large company like a Beltone or someone that has major distribution and sales to kind of get this into the market without raising a lot of money for sales and marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's really a couple answers to that. Number one, it's probably not a professional type sale. It's a peer-to-peer speech pathologist to speech pathologist. We have, years ago, contacted all the hearing aid companies. This is just not a direction that they're wanting to go. Ultimately, hopefully, one of the large Medtronic or St. Jude that do the implantable deep brain stimulators will be interested in something like this, because every patient who has Parkinson's that gets a deep brain stimulator, 20% of them wake up with diminished speech, and that's in the white paper. So they're well aware of it, and they're looking for options to help those people.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful job. And Steve just mentioned to me backstage that recently Rocksteady Boxing launched the first ever Parkinson's magazine, and Speech5 took out an ad in their magazine in order to support them. So I see a beautiful and important partnership established here. Thank you very much. Last but certainly not least, it's my pleasure to introduce Robert Agee. He's the CEO of Natural Renewal. It's the latest innovation in wound care. Please join me in welcoming Robert. There's a clicker on the podium. So. Is it on?
Hi, everyone. Wonderful to be here.
Here, let me see that real quick. Not sure that's on. Try that podium mic, will you?
So we've all faced it. Everybody, 100% of everyone, is going to get a little cut, nick, ding, something in their lifetime. And even more so, we're going to have to take care of our children or our elderly parents. They're the most sensitive of all. And in that time that we're taking care of them, we have to disinfect their wound, we have to cover it. And unfortunately, what do we face right now? We have to dig through a whole box of bandages, we have to get out the med kit, get out all these different bottles and different things like that. And it takes time, and the person's hurting, and the Band-Aid falls off and it hurts them. And most importantly of all, none of these things are natural, and actually they can be carcinogenic and can contribute to that carcinogenic load that we all face in our lifetime. So what do we do? Can we have a next slide? Next slide, please. So what we've developed is a proprietary formula that uses a proprietary plant protein that is natural, safe, it's non-toxic, waterproof, and renewable. We've developed this formula in partnership with Purdue out of a contest called the Student Soy and Corn Innovation Contest. We've signed a trade secret agreement, and we've utilized this formula to actually even cure wounds. In fact, if you meet me after this discussion, I can show you on where I cut my thumb yesterday. So we've proven it, we know that it works, and And so we're going to market with it. So in going to market with it, we want to find out who is our core constituency, who are the persons that are looking for this natural liquid bandage wound cover. And we've identified that folks who really, thank you.
You can finish that thought, Robert.
So we've identified that Whole Foods, Fresh Time, other natural markets, the folks inside those spaces are who we would like to go after in marketing this product. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've taken realism and pitching to a whole new level by cutting yourself.
Yeah, dang tomato cans.
Question, are there any regulatory pathway issues that you have to deal with?
Thankfully, in this case, we don't. The regulatory pathways, since this is a liquid wound cover, liquid bandage, and all of the ingredients that we're using in it are already recognized by the FDA as safe, we're able to go directly to the market without any sort of clinical trials or obstacles beforehand.
What trials have you done? Have you done anything to compare, existing liquid Band-Aids, kind of the standard of care that is currently present?
Yes, so we've compared it to standard liquid bandages in the lab on ourselves with our own little nicks and cuts. As I said, this is waterproof and it's non-toxic, and it still holds up about a day or two, which is in comparison to what's currently available.
What's your product's pricing in comparison to what's in the market?
So products in the market cost about $5 to $6 per retail unit. We're able to produce it and sell it at cost at about half of that. So the nice thing about these Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, is that oftentimes they are catering to these organic consumers who want natural personal care products, but they're willing to pay prices which are 2 to 3 times as much as you're in comparison to what they would pay in a retail pharmacy. So we feel there's a very comfortable margin, not to gouge any customers at all, but to be competitive and, in fact, extremely competitive with what's currently available.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you, Patsy. Thank you. So as a special surprise gift to today's pitchers, we are pleased to announce that the Indiana University Maurer School of Law Intellectual Property Legal Clinic, part of the Center for Intellectual Property Research, is giving priority consideration to today's pitchers for their pro bono legal services, potentially obtaining patent or trademark protection for their innovations. So we recognize them in the back of the program. And one of the pitchers let me know backstage that is a really high respected group that does a lot of great work. So anybody here who's an entrepreneur knows how important pro bono is. So we're thrilled to have their offer. How about a big round of applause for our judges? Thank you so much for being here.